Welcome back to Carolina Packers podcast, where we're just going to do a quick video on the, reaction to the Week 3 game between the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. So, since it is your team, I will kind of pass it to you and kind of give me your thoughts on this game.
Well, first of all, glad that it was a win. I mean, clearly there were some disappointing losses in the last two games prior to this. Loss on a 55 and a 58-yard field goal in the final drives, respectively. It became another worrisome scenario with a final drive, a long shot final drive, of course. But as happy as I am that there's now a win, especially a conference win, good to see them beat the Saints. It was an ugly, ugly win. So I would say there are some positive takeaways. I mean, the clear positive takeaway was the defense played fantastic. At the end of the game, you know, the box score, you can see the Saints have 14 points. That is not, I think, representative, though, of how the defense played. They just got tired. Because did they all come in the fourth quarter?
Yes.
Okay. So 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Prior to that point, the Saints were getting demolished by the Panthers defense. There was a fumble for 6, a fumble retrieval for 6. So for most of the game, actually the defense had the same amount of points as the offense, which we'll get to. A field goal. That was huge. And another sack as they were setting up to get into field goal range. In fact, they were in field goal range. I would say easy field goal range. There was a huge sack of Jameis Winston, and they ended up missing that field goal. A couple of tipped passes. I mean, they were playing heavy and pretty intense the entire game. But they got tired at the end and let Winston get away with a couple of deep bombs, especially with a team like the Saints that has so many talented wide receivers. And for all of his faults, Winston has a big arm, right? And he can just air it out. And so once they started airing it out at the end in a lot of Hail Mary kind of scenarios, I mean, there were a couple interceptions too, I think, which is kind of classic. Jameis Winston just throwing it down the field, but you never know when it's going to be a catch. And that was concerning. The biggest concern was knowing that every time the defense got an interception, a stop, that our offense was only good for a minute of clock time before it went back. Watching the Panthers play was embarrassing. The offense is embarrassing.
It's not good.
When you look at the talent that is on that team, a healthy Christian McCaffrey, who is playing well, I will add. Not even a washed Christian McCaffrey, healthy. A good wide receiver setup. I mean, you've got DJ Moore, you have Robbie Anderson, and I'm blanking on who else maybe our number 3 is.
I mean, you have a couple, like, you have, of course, your tight ends with the
Christian McCaffrey is a catching back as well. Yeah. Chuba Hubbard is also a talented running back.
But then again, if you look at the stats, really, not a lot here. Your leading receiver, like, you only had 2 receptions. Like, look at this, 2 receptions is the most you had for anybody.
And that goes to the big point, which is how horribly, not only I would say watching the game, some of it's Baker Mayfield's fault. But there is a problem even deeper than Baker Mayfield going on. And I don't know if it's the offensive coordinator. I don't know if it's Matt Rule. But for my part, watching the Panthers play was mind-boggling, just trying to figure out what was going on. And I know I mentioned it was not hard to figure out what play they were going to run. It was hard to figure out why they were running that play. Why were they doing the plays that they did as far as you're trying to burn clock? Well, let's just pass it. With our quarterback that is struggling. Those stats for Baker Mayfield are incredibly deceptive. He had one great, like, 67-yard touchdown pass play, which the Panthers needed. I mean, when you look at this, without that touchdown, without that crazy, just the offense can't get anything done, and we have one breakaway play, lucky, essentially, they may not have won this game.
Yeah, because if you look at it, really, really breaking it down, you had, I just scrolled down a little bit, but you guys had 3 field goals and an extra point from your kicker. So that's 10 points, right? And, of course, the touchdown pass was 67 yards to Chenault, right?
Yep.
And then you had, of course, the defensive touchdown. But if you think about it, your defense had, let's see, 2 interceptions, a fumble return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then, of course, special teams, there was the missed extra point.
Yep.
Or, sorry, the missed field goal. And then the blocked field goal.
Yes.
So, like, you look outside in, like, holy. Like, that is incredible game for your defense and special teams.
They outperformed.
Oh, my.
Massively. Both of them, which makes you wonder, okay, take 67. What is that total? Baker Mayfield was, other than that one deep pass, 11 for 24 with 103 passing yards.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, there were dropped passes. There were passes that were way too low. A positive development was no interceptions, no fumbles for Baker Mayfield, which from week 1 is huge improvement.
And that's the thing. That's the key, though, too. I honestly like this kind of distribution. I wish it wasn't 25 here and only 3 here.
Yeah.
I think Hubbard needs to have a little more carries, maybe even 8, 9.
More first down runs, especially when we're up, right?
Yeah.
He's not as explosive or talented as Christian McCaffrey, but he's good for yards.
Yeah.
And he's done well when he's had to sub in when McCaffrey is hurt. I say give him a chance, give him an opportunity. Prevent Christian McCaffrey
That's
from
what I'm
being
saying.
hurt.
You don't
Why
want
is he taking all
25
of those?
rushes. Like, I should say, yeah, obviously he's great. I mean, 4.3 yards a carry is very solid, of course. But 25 attempts, obviously, to run out the clock at the end, that's what you want. But only 3 attempts for your backup running back, as he's averaging 8.3 yards per attempt.
And when you look at how badly this offense is performing, there is something wrong in the construction of the play calling, in the execution of the plan. There doesn't seem to be a plan. I mean, you have Baker Mayfield, who is not an untalented quarterback.
No.
You have, again, talented wide receivers. When he's healthy, one of the top 5 running backs, certainly one of the top catching backs in the entire NFL, and we can't get any kind of drive going.
And I will say, I was looking, like honestly, going back to this, 25 attempts for Baker Mayfield, right around where I'd like it. If I was a Panthers fan, maybe, depending on what groove he's in, obviously he wasn't in a groove this game, so 25 attempts is really my max.
Yeah.
But really, like, if he's in a groove, 25 to 30 attempts, like, obviously, like, 31 attempts for running, like, is great. Again, I think the only thing you change is getting Christian McCaffrey a little less carries, because, again, with the injury trouble, you need him for the future, right?
I want to know why we couldn't convert on 3rd down.
That's the biggest thing.
I could not convert.
I think that's what I was going to say is the biggest issue for you guys, because you guys were driving, and you guys would get into their territory, and then the stall or the drive would stall out and be done. Because you guys had 3 field goals, right? So that's 3 drives in itself, obviously.
But it should have been way more, because think about how many times the Panthers were maybe 15, 20 yards out of field goal range, and just could not make it happen. They could not get a first down to save their life. They played so poorly. And yes, I mean, there were a couple of calls that, like, there was a face mask at the end that wasn't called. But for the most part, there was not egregious passing interference.
No.
There was just no separation.
That's the thing.
The wide receivers couldn't separate. When they were separate, either Baker or Mayfield couldn't get the ball to them, or it was dropped. I mean, with a couple of good plays in the mix, I could not tell what the plan was to get 3 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. I mean, we were doing stuff like going for 4th and 4.
And that's the thing, because I look at the situation, and obviously defense, 14 points is a great game, obviously, right? Yeah. But the Panthers, even though we were watching the game on this as well, and we saw that the Panthers had like a 98% probability of winning in the fourth quarter with like 8 minutes left. But really, if you're a Panthers fan, looking at how the defense played and how the special teams played, you wanted it to be. You guys should have over 30 points. Yes. You guys should have blown them out.
It should have been a blowout.
Or not even necessarily a blowout. Just a game where, granted, yes, at the end of the game, it was like a really pretty much game was over at that point. 17 seconds left. They had the ball on like the 1 yard line, but it should have been far
prior
from
to
over.
That. I mean, when it was reading 98% win chance and the Panthers were up 22-7, right? I believe was the score.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston and the Saints got a touchdown within 15 seconds.
Yeah.
2 45-yard passes.
It was quick.
And they had it. And that is the kind of explosive energy that the Saints were able to put together and that, I was fearing could continue as far as momentum. The Panthers cannot win games except with accidents, because the Saints made a lot of accidents or unbelievable plays by the defense. If the offense doesn't have the ability to change momentum, there was just no sign. And
even it wasn't even unbelievable. Jameis Winston did not play well. He missed a lot of throws.
Yes.
And obviously,
couple interceptions.
Yeah, exactly. 353 yards is a lot of yards. Obviously, yards-wise, he played really well, but he also had 41 attempts. You want to see Kamara with 4 rushing attempts have more attempts. Or even Mark Ingram even. Yeah. Again, I think also, though, even looking at that, though, I think the Panthers had a great defense. Great defense. It's just their offense needs to make that next step with Baker Mayfield. It's week 3 now.
Yes.
You've had the preseason, you had the offseason, you've had OTAs, you have all this stuff to prepare you. Week 3, it needs to show next week, because I'm pretty sure you guys play the Buccaneers. Is it next week? So
next week or week 5, one of those.
Yeah, you guys have some tough schedule coming up where you need to get together and play well.
And it is a couple of tough games on the schedule. I mean, we have the Falcons. Clearly, we'll play the Saints, I believe, again. But you can't have the fans booing Baker Mayfield prior to the half.
Yeah, it's going to be. It'll be interesting because hopefully Baker Mayfield can just couple more completions, couple more better passes. We saw a couple of just missed throws. Maybe whenever they weren't open, some smart plays by just getting rid of it. But there were some missed throws in there. Yeah. And, of course, he just wasn't on the right page, same page with his receivers. And it's one of those things where, again, like you had mentioned earlier, the third downs were just weird. It would be like you guys would be driving, and you guys just wouldn't be able to just make that next step. Let's see team stats. Passing first downs. Yeah, look at this. 14 passing first downs. So it's 19-12. Yeah. 19 first downs for the Saints. 4 for 14 on third down.
That is the stat of the game right there.
And then 0 for 1 on 4.
And think about how many drives ended in that 14. There were so many just 3-and-out drives that the Panthers did. They were abysmal. I mean, they would have done the defense more favors, again, just kneeling it out for max times.
And I mean, you look at it too, though, all these yards comparison, that's over, that's 130 yards extra. Yeah. For the Saints. It's because of the turnovers, obviously. Yes. And I think that's a big thing that the Panthers need to take into the weeks to come, is just take care of the ball, because obviously the defense is up to the task to help the offense out. But if the offense is turning it over, it's not going to go well.
What bothers me, and this again is what I was talking about with just the completely confusing absence of a coherent game plan, or how these pieces that have so much individual talent on offense should be fitted together. We have 3 games in a row where we see Baker Mayfield have this fourth quarter miracle play, series of miracle plays, things kind of groove a little bit, and the rest of the time, the rest of the game, it is just a fish floating downstream, belly up. There's nothing going on. The offense is missing in action, just dead in the water. what is their goal? Robbie Anderson, I think, has shown himself to be an incredibly inefficient, underperforming wide receiver. Yeah. Maybe he should not be our go-to guy. Maybe
you guys have DJ Moore. You have to have DJ Moore.
And we have to be including
And today
him.
I saw a stat earlier. He was 1 for 6. So he was targeted 6 times, had 1 catch for like 2 yards.
And I want to know, maybe, because I'm sure for the Saints, especially a defense that has so much talent as they do, if it was as obvious as it was to me what the Panthers were about to run, it was way more obvious to them. It seems almost like they zero in on a play. If they're going to run it, they're going to put Baker Mayfield, way back and have him charge right into the middle and get stuffed. Where is the ambiguity? Where are the options? In some ways, it shows a complete lack of trust in your quarterback that he's even capable of making those decisions. That could be the case, but that is not the way that we're going to win games. They have to have some kind of roadmap, some kind of conception of how this offense will not just get touchdowns. How are they going to get first downs?
Well, they can get first downs. Clearly, they got 12 first downs. But
not on third down. How will they get third down conversions?
Yeah, that's
if they can't convert on third down except for 4 times.
Well, when your quarterback's 12 for 25, it's going to be tough to get first down.
But think about how many times they got stuffed trying to do a 2-yard run.
That's true.
Because it was just a perfect read. They just advertised it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Christian McCaffrey, the guy is super talented, but he can only do so much when you scream the play to the defense prior. What is the plan? So, and positive to see our punter doing well.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's good takeaways. Obviously, a win's a good takeaway.
I think another sign of a bad game is one time you guys were in the red zone the whole entire game.
Yeah.
And you did not do anything.
Yes.
That's not good.
That's not good.
Like that's a sign that it was a bad game. Yes. And that's not what you want, obviously. But yeah, if you guys have any takeaways from this game, we'd love to hear it. Love to have some interaction and everything. So we'll see you next time. We'll kind of gather thoughts. Green Bay game's about to come out, so we'll do a quick video on that as well.